faster than a speeding bullet,
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
more powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus, resilient, highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound.
Hey guys, Jared Moon here from Into 3 Fitness, and welcome to the Better Humanology podcast. This week we have Sam Miller from Oracle Training and Nutrition to talk about what happens when you really need to get past the sets and reps and start focusing more on your nutrition and other lifestyle factors to help you better individualize your own program and start making some better decisions where you can continue to see progress. Pretty interesting episode, so without any further ado, here is Sam Miller. All right, Sam, welcome to the Better Humanology podcast, man. I'm pumped to have you here today.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be on.
All right, so let's get right into it here. We're going to start with some challenges for everyone listening. So I'm going to throw that to you, if you don't mind. How about a fitness challenge?
For sure. So a fitness challenge we're actually doing at the gym I train at this week is a body weight trap bar deadlift for 1 minute. So it's more time under tension and relative strength capabilities instead of just a sheer pure strength or maximal lift. Can be definitely more challenging than it sounds, but it's pretty solid. So I'd encourage you to try it. It's a little different than some of the traditional ones you hear. So I figured I'd roll with that today.
I like that, man. And so it's max reps in a minute?
Yeah. So like for me, I usually fluctuate between about 185, 190 pounds. So I would throw that body weight on the bar and do as many reps as I can in that 1 minute time period. If you need to, you can kind of reset, but ideally you would have just continuous reps as long as you can go for that minute.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, it sounds like a challenge for sure. All right, how about a mental toughness challenge?
Mental toughness challenge. So I'm going to keep it simple on this one that you can apply to your daily life. This is something I personally struggle with, but having the discipline to start your first 15 to 30 minutes of your day without your cell phone, or doing like social media type activities on your cell phone. What I've tried to do is gravitate more towards like a podcast or reading something and repeating that at the end of the day. So last 15, I think it can help kind of create some mental freedom. And also it's a little bit of mental toughness because you have to have the discipline and not just check your messages right away. I think that puts you in a very reactive mindset. And by being proactive, setting the tone for your day with that discipline, I think it kind of opens you up and creates some schedule freedom as well. That's
awesome, man. Yeah, I love that. Love that recommendation. All right, now how about a book recommendation? Anything recently read or maybe a book that was impactful for you?
Sure. So I'm currently reading The Big Leap, which is kind of about self-limiting beliefs, which falls more on the mindset side. But as I sit here and we're recording this podcast on the bookshelf, you have a Tim Ferriss book behind you, which I've read that one, so I recognize the side cover. But one book that was pretty impactful.
Here's The Big Leap. Yeah.
All right. So we got The Big Leap. I really like Tools of Titans.
Yeah.
Probably more so than Tribe of Mentors. If I had to pick a Tim Ferriss book, that book just had so many good insights. I love getting strategies and opinions from a wide array of people as opposed to a singular opinion from one author. So what I like about those interview style books is it gives you a little bit of insight into, all these successful people in multiple different areas. And then you can draw the trends and patterns that you can then apply to your life. So that's Tools of Titans. Currently reading The Big Leap because I think you just constantly, you have to like shed a new layer of skin every time you grow and evolve. So by getting rid of your self-limiting beliefs, oftentimes when we achieve something new, we create other limitations in our life in other areas. So let's say we achieve fitness success, we might create this financial drama, even though we don't really realize it, or we might achieve financial success, but create other types of conflict in our lives. So enjoying it so far. I'm only about 60 pages in, but it's been pretty good.
Yeah, dude, I think you're 100% correct. And that, that's a big part of the reason I love that book and have it on my bookshelf is because you see that happen to so many people who reach any level of success. It's like they have some sort of self-sabotage going on, after they get to that level, and trying to be aware of that and avoiding it in your life, I think takes a lot of focus and intent. But dude, that's awesome. Great. Two great recommendations. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So let's get an intro, man. So just tell us a little bit about, your background, kind of, go take us as far back as you really need to, this being, could be health, fitness related, or even before that, and then bring us up to what you're most passionate about and some of the projects you're working on today.
For sure. So my formal health and fitness journey began in high school for me, just trying to be, look better, be stronger, perform better. And I was fairly active as a kid. I think a lot of my discipline came from doing karate growing up. So I did mostly individual sports. The first real group sports I was doing was kind of like basketball, lacrosse, baseball, that sort of thing. But kind of that unique activity that I think would have contributed to more mental toughness or discipline would have been karate, just because we were doing so many different things besides just fighting. I mean, even, there's not a ton of kids that are like learning how to do wood breaking at a younger age. So that was definitely kind of unique for me. But as far as the tools on the fitness side, I didn't really start to pick that up in terms of lifting or doing any type of conditioning in a formal sense, probably until high school or college. I received my first personal training certification when I was about 18 years old. And then that was always my part-time job in college, something I enjoyed doing as a side hustle, even worked in a nutrition store a little bit from there. Was given kind of some conventional wisdom that can't really be a career. So was a little discouraged, took more of a traditional route, got a corporate job, and also went more and got my MBA, went back into the corporate world doing some corporate strategy and consulting and stuff like that, but really wasn't enjoying it, spending the vast majority of my days in an office, commuting, or being in a cube, or staring, at Excel, or being in a boardroom. So since I wasn't super satisfied with that, I ultimately started my own company. My company is Oracle Training and Nutrition. We also work with, on the corporate side, it's called the Adaptive Professional, which is geared more towards like seminars, presentations, or programs that we'll do in a corporate environment. I'm currently located in Raleigh, North Carolina, on the East Coast of the United States. And my passion is mainly taking basically really complicated concepts that can come across in fitness or science, health, and nutrition, and turning them into something that can be distilled and broken down where your regular, average, everyday person can understand them and implement them into their daily lives. There's no point in kind of putting information out there on strength training or hormones or nutrition or macros if you can't effectively teach it to your clients and get them to actually change their habits, because it kind of all comes back to that. So that's kind of my quick explanation of what my company does. Oracle Training and Nutrition is more on the one-to-one coaching side. So we're primarily an online coaching business designed to help folks with their nutrition or doing some remote training as well.
Awesome, dude. Very cool. Very cool to hear your story too, transitioning, from a huge passion in fitness and then the business side and then coming back to it. So tell me a little bit more. Take me back to when you were doing the corporate job thing. What were you doing to still stay fit? Did you find it difficult? Because I'm sure you probably have a lot of clients who are in that exact same situation. They probably enjoy being there more than you did, but I'm just saying, like, how did you find your fitness routine, nutrition, keeping up with all that stuff in the corporate lifestyle?
It was definitely tough because, we get pretty bad. We're definitely a growing city without like the best infrastructure for commuting. We don't really have rail or transit or, any type of mass commuter system. So, you're driving on the highway if you're going out to Research Triangle Park or Chapel Hill or areas where these offices are. So I was driving about an hour every day, maybe more, sometimes an hour and a half.
Wow.
Just to get out there. So working out in the morning was kind of difficult because we didn't really have a super flexible schedule. So a lot of times I would try and cram in a quick workout on my lunch break. And so instead of taking a formal lunch or going and eating, I would go work out. And then I would try and eat at my desk and work that out. So doing that a minimum of like 2 to 3 days a week can definitely keep you on track. And then on the weekends, Saturday or Sunday, I would try and kind of prioritize myself. Or alternatively, I was left with trying to go after work. And that was pretty tricky. So one thing that worked for me is hitting those shorter workouts during the week just to keep me on track, keep me active, but also kind of wake me up so I didn't have that afternoon slump in the office. So that was pretty effective. And then transitioned out after that. So now, have a little bit more flexibility in terms of the workout schedule and stuff like that.
Yeah. What's your day look like today, or, your daily life?
Yeah. So if I'm not, I've had to travel lately for some seminars and stuff. We were in New York for LinkedIn in September. We recently recorded a men's health and nutrition masterclass in Scottsdale, Arizona. So since I'm on the East Coast, like that involved a fair amount of traveling. Typically, I'm working with clients most of the day and working from home for the folks that are anywhere in the United States from like Miami to Seattle. But what makes it tricky is a lot of times I'm still working around a client schedule. We do have some corporate commitments ongoing on Mondays and Wednesdays. So typically, I'll wake up, I'll try and knock out a good bit of work. I'll hit the gym as still sort of like a midday break. Usually either I'm waking up and I'm going first thing in the morning, or like before I get a ton of client mail coming in or messages or phone calls. Or alternatively, like I'll go during more of a traditional lunch. So like today I kind of went around 11 before some afternoon appointments. So that's kind of how I'm carving it into my schedule right now. But to be honest, it really varies day to day, depending on like, am I trying to make a podcast appointment? Am I working with clients, or am I doing more new client consult calls or strategy calls or anything like that? So definitely have to be pretty flexible with it.
And when you're working with your clients, how big are you on educating them about the process as you take them through the process? The reason I ask is because you mentioned in the beginning during the introduction how you like to take complex processes and make them more applicable into people's daily lives. So like, how much do you incorporate that, and how do you do it?
So one thing that I do include on most of our coaching programs, so rather than doing like templates and stuff, a lot of times with our team, we essentially have 3 coaches right now. You're having a phone call with your coach. Usually when I'm updating or changing your nutrition, there is some sort of video that accompanies it. So I'll do like a screen share where I'll have your document in front of me. Maybe I'm giving you feedback on a food log or some macro tracking, or maybe it's like a workout, and I'll look at your calendar. Whether it's like, if it's our training app, I'm looking at their calendar. If it's nutrition related, typically what I'll do is record like a 10-minute screen share and say like, here's some of the patterns I'm noticing. For example, today I had a new client come in and like, she wasn't really eating enough protein, but she's very, very active. So just explaining, this is good for muscle recovery. Also, it's going to help keep you full, stabilize your energy levels versus just having the up and down in blood sugar with carbohydrate intake. Here's why we're balancing it out. Your calories are going to be around the same, but what we're doing is moving, energy and nutrients from this area kind of over to a different category. So I think mainly I try and do it through communication, either that like video, phone, even their starting documents though are typically like 4 or 5 pages long. It's not like a 1 page or 1 line, like hit this amount of calories every day. So it's trying to equip them with tools that they can actually use going forward, and providing them with guides and different things when they sign on. So I try and do it in different ways to kind of work with people who learn differently. So sometimes people are visual learners. Other times people are a little more auditory. So having the calls certainly can help from time to time.
And what do you do for, remote coaching, can be a challenge when you're not there. So like, how do you keep people accountable and keeping their head in the game during training sessions and things like that?
For sure. So I'm very fortunate in that a lot of our clients have come to us from more of a strategy and mindset perspective. So typically, maybe they go to a group workout right now, maybe they CrossFit or Orange Theory, or maybe they resistance train, and where they need the assistance is on the nutrition side. Or they might be coming in, hey, I had a personal trainer, but I'm tired of paying $1,000 a month. I'm interested in still getting 20 workouts a month program for me, basically work out 5 days a week, 4 weeks in a month. So there's your 20 workouts. And they're here for the strategy and the mindset piece more so than the accountability. For accountability, I use, at a minimum, they're checking in bi-weekly. Some people are checking in weekly if they're competing or they have more aggressive goals and pursuits. Then we're checking in even more often than that. But what I use is they essentially have to go in and complete a customized intake or survey form. And by doing that, I'm getting updates on like food compliance, workout compliance, whether they're a training client of ours or not, nutritional compliance. Usually we're following along either in MyFitnessPal or Macros Plus to see kind of like, how are you doing with tracking your intake? And they'll submit that to us by a certain deadline, usually every week or every other week. And then I'll go and give them feedback. I'll say, hey man, like your sleep was a 2 out of 5 this week. why was your sleep a 2 out of 5? And it might be one of my dads that has like a newborn at home, and he's like, oh, sorry, like the baby was up, which is different than, yeah, I pulled an all-nighter, or, I went out this weekend and was drinking. Totally different. So I am pretty fortunate that a lot of our clients have some level of experience. We do get some beginners, but usually accountability for them looks a little bit different because they're on a different program. But for our advanced lifters or people who are looking to take their nutrition to the next level, they're mostly coming to us for the science piece more so than they don't need the babysitting or the hand-holding. For the folks that are brand new, just starting out, and they really need more accountability, we actually, I use a software or kind of like white labeled application, which is the Oracle Training and Nutrition app now. And basically there's a calendar, gives them their workouts, video instruction on everything that they need to do. They can log their sets and reps, but it's all customized. So rather than going in, like let's say it's a dude who's 35 years old with a goal of losing body fat, like I will put him on a men's program for someone with that specific goal versus, just buying an app for $3 in the app store that gives you some random workout.
Right.
It's going to be designed to match up with their intake form and their goals. So I'll hand select that and then load their program in. They can check in via calendar, or, there's several options. They can reschedule their stuff, but that way, like I see their activity. So if they haven't logged in 2, 3, 4 days, I'll say like, hey man, like you haven't logged in, you haven't checked any workouts, what's going on? And, after a while they begin to just kind of self-report, hey, I'm going to miss this. I'm traveling for work, or, hey, my bad this week, help me get back in gear for next week. So those are the current tools that we're using. I'm a big fan of using technology. I think what's great about doing the online programming is you can provide a ton of value relative to what you would get. Like if you're meeting with a trainer for $75 to $100 an hour, depending on where you're located, if you're in New York or San Francisco, it's probably like $150 an hour or more. If you do that 3 times a week for a month, even taking the $100 example, that's $1,200 a month just to have someone kind of count those sets and reps for you. So I'm a big believer in creating a strategy for clients, having enough touch points where they feel like they have guidance, they have mentorship, they have coaching, and kind of point them in the right direction from there, and keep them on a successful path for whatever their journey is.
That's awesome, man. I do like that you can provide so much more value. I'm in complete agreement with that. I think that's something you can really focus on and be able to do a little bit more, because you can be a little bit more involved. Now, going to nutrition, what are some like big mistakes you see people making, let's just say in nutrition in general right now?
So for nutrition in general right now, it really depends. So I see a lot of people on the CrossFit or Orange Theory side doing these like glycolytic type workouts, not eating enough carbohydrate, which basically means you're doing a highly demanding energy consuming activity, but you're not providing adequate energetic nutrients. And then you're basically stressing your body out. I see about 50% of that where it would be people under eating. And then I see about 50% where it's kind of your typical, doesn't eat enough protein for lean body mass. Maybe their carbs or fats are out of whack, or they just really lack routine in their schedule, or maybe they think they eat healthy, but they're not tracking their food or keeping a food log. So simply by having an awareness around what you're eating and your portions, you can create better compliance. So biggest issues in nutrition, I'd say there's probably 2. There's folks who are under eating and therefore impacting their energy levels and decreasing their performance in whatever their chosen activity is. And then on the other side of things, like people who are maybe think they're fueling really well, but are either overeating or undereating because of a lack of tracking or lack of awareness. If I had to pick a third one, it's probably just we live in a diet culture. So I've had probably 2 or 3 people in the last month who have come to me that are not only intermittent fasting, but they're also following like a ketogenic diet in addition to the fasting. So it's like they're taking multiple diets that are kind of fads right now, combining them, and then trying to apply it to themselves. So now you have like a feeding restriction, which is designed to create calorie restriction. And you now have carbohydrate restriction, which is also designed to create calorie restriction. So now you have kind of double restriction. And it's like, dude, are you never going to eat a carb for the rest of your life? Or are you never going to have breakfast in the morning? Or are you never going to have dinner at a certain time at night? So I'm fine if people need to make that for lifestyle choices. I have white collar guys that feel better when they intermittent fast and they have more focus, but it's not always the best for like athletic performance on a given day. So I'm a big fan of rotating in the tools as you need them. Like if you're dieting and you need to create a calorie deficit, okay, let's maybe use intermittent fasting 2 days a week or 3 days a week. Or if someone's truly overweight and really does not do well with carbohydrates, okay, let's do a cyclical approach where maybe 2 months, you try a ketogenic diet and then we kind of pull you out of that and then reintroduce carbohydrates. But very rarely am I just like intentionally pulling all of someone's carbohydrates out of their diet. So those are probably the three biggest things right now. I kind of forgot about the diet culture one, but that's huge. I see that all the time, and people just having like a terrible relationship with food because of the different diets that are out there right now.
Yeah, man, compounding multiple diets, that's got to be a challenge for anybody, and would take such a strong amount of discipline to actually pull it off. So going back to undereating, because I stumble across that all the time, and people are always surprised that they may in fact be undereating. So like, what are some of the things that people could look out for right now? We have a lot of athletes listening to this podcast. How could they like maybe one, just today be like, you know what, maybe I am undereating, what are some things that they should be looking out for? And then also how would you recommend they correct it?
Sure. So I always start with like a 3 to 7 day food log to create awareness, and then branching out from that, look at things like your sleep quality. Like, can you sleep through the night, or do you wake up hungry, or maybe you're not waking up hungry, but you have some sleep disturbances. In addition to sleep, we'll track things like, I'm a really big believer in labs and blood work. I don't mandate that clients get them done, but if they have them, I will look at them and give them tailored feedback based on everything that they're doing. So I'm kind of found myself in this niche of being more of like the hormones guy or a hormone specialist. But, I really think that comes back to your habits, right? So like if you're not eating enough, that will impact your hormones. If you're exercising too much, that will impact your hormones. Or if you're super lazy and you don't exercise at all and you primarily eat very high calorie foods, that's also your habits that have now created type 2 diabetes or some sort of chronic illness. Those all come back to healthy habits. So that's an example of like how hormones are a really complicated topic, but you can break it down in a way that's simple for people to understand. But for athletes that might be undereating, I'd say keep a 3 to 7 day food log, look at your sleep, look at your energy levels. Are you continuing to hit PRs? Have you kind of plateaued or kind of like become stagnant? For me, I'll tend to get injured a little more often if I'm undereating. You'll have kind of this lack of progress with body composition. So it's still very individualized depending on the person, but those would be kind of some of the biggest clues I would look at.
And now going to the other mistake, you said people overeating, and you're saying that's primarily just to like lack of awareness, like they're not tracking, so they just have no idea how many calories they're actually consuming.
Yeah, very rarely do I have someone, I can think of a couple friends, but very rarely, unless they're strategically trying to gain size, do I have someone who's coming in an intentional calorie surplus. I think being that we are in a diet culture, we have people who are either unintentionally in a surplus and they think they're eating clean, or they're doing like the Whole30, but they're not monitoring their energy balance or calorie intake. Or we have people who are very aware of what they're tracking and kind of like controlling their life through the food or the diet that they're following. So it's definitely super mixed. But I would say, since we do have so many people in the country who are overweight or obese, I'm very careful to make a broad disclaimer that, yeah, everyone's under eating. I think it applies more to type A high achievers who are already doing like strength training, CrossFit, Orange Theory. We have Metabolic here locally, which is similar to like Barry's Boot Camp on a kind of bigger scale. Basically these high intensity interval training type workouts paired with very little food, lower carbohydrates, and you're essentially increasing the stress response in your body. I see it quite frequently, especially this is males and females actually, where your lack of carbohydrate and your high stress activity, eventually if you're depriving your body of food long enough, it basically just starts to downregulate and adapt to whatever stimulus you're imposing on it. So if that's too much activity or too little food, it'll adapt to that. Or if it's too much food, your body can kind of figure out a way to regulate and adapt to that too.
And so how, like, you probably, I mean, everything's individualized for your clients, but I mean, what's the carbohydrate sweet spot that you're kind of recommending right now? Is it a lot more than people expect, or kind of you're just trying to get them to eat what they should be eating?
I start super slow, mainly because of psychological reasons, but also I don't think it's a smart idea. People talk about like, oh, shock your body. Well, I think your body likes to live in homeostasis, and it creates a balanced equilibrium because that's comfortable. So like, I don't go in and add 100 carbs to someone's diet, or 50 carbs even for that matter, or 200. Usually we're making small incremental adjustments of 10 to 15 grams of carbs and increases a week. It might also look like increasing the fat by anywhere from 3 to 5 grams, which you might think like, man, that's crazy. 3 grams of fat. That's like a teaspoon of almond butter or peanut butter or something like that. Or olive oil, pick any healthy fat really. But we'll start with those super small increments and essentially reverse diet them back to where they begin to have basically a point of diminishing returns from the added calories. I think if you add too many too quickly, then you don't give your body time to adapt. Your body is now basically in a place, let's say you're undereating, it's adapted to the fact that you're undereating. So then all of a sudden to just throw, an extra 200 carbs at it, which is 800 calories, I think that's kind of a bad idea unless someone like is severely malnourished and just needs to put on body weight and gain, like just eat whatever they can. But usually in that setting, we're taking a controlled environment. I'm resetting their macros. There's no set gram amount or set like percentage per pound of body weight, because the activity that the person's doing and the amount of sleep they're getting, their stress levels in their life, those are all going to dictate the carbohydrate tolerance. So I try and be pretty sensitive to the fact that like, okay, just because this person's 180 pounds and this person's 180 pounds doesn't mean they both eat 300 grams of carbs. It might be tweaked depending on that. But if I had to pick like a general rule of thumb, it would be add pretty slowly. For girls, that's maybe 10 grams, 15 grams. For guys, it might be 15 to 20, depending on your size and what it is that we're trying to accomplish.
Now, moving from nutrition to mindset, you said you work with a lot of people, or they come to you for mindset work. What kind of work are you working on when you do mindset stuff?
So as far as the mindset part goes, I think a lot of people they think they're just coming in for training and nutrition, but they're unaware that mindset is a barrier that's impacting the training and nutrition. So oftentimes it's when life is stressful, I'm controlling my food intake, or I don't ever think I'm going to make progress, so I don't. I mean, my favorite example is there was a study of essentially Norwegian people, and then I think it was either Mandarin or somewhere in Eastern Asia, where they were essentially given 4 meals. One was their home country's food, and it was on a plate that was identifiable. One was the home country's food, but it was like blended up where you couldn't distinguish the macronutrient profile. One was the other country. So like the Norwegian people were given the Asian food, or vice versa, and then take that Asian food and blend it up. So you basically had 4 meals that were totally congruent and similar macronutrient profiles. And when the people ate the food and they were basically told, hey dude from Norway or wherever they were, your food, your home country's food is more nourishing. And they were told this, and it's kind of the same thing for the Asian people. When they ate the food from their home country, even though it had the same macronutrient profile, the lab responses and the testing actually showed that they received more nourishment from the food that they were told was better for them. So that's just an element where mindset plays in. I don't have an exact link to the study, but one of my favorite doctors, Dr. Conover, mentions that a lot. It was on both the Aubrey Marcus podcast and I think a few other references as well. But what I love about that example is you're taking foods that, like white rice, if you take a cup of it, has X amount of carbs, and you could kind of like distort that, or you could take other foods that have 50 grams of carbs. But your mindset is a huge, huge piece of like, what mental state am I in when I'm eating this food? If you truly believe that like, oh my God, this is going to make me fat, or like, this isn't helping me, I think, your brain and your body are definitely wired to have a certain reaction in terms of this, scarcity of the food that's around you, or the excess of food that's around you and the environment that it creates. So I try and have people think pretty positively with it, but I don't know that right now. I mean, the people that are coming to me that specifically are looking for the mindset guidance, it's really more on the business side. They're like, hey, I'm trying to transition from in-person to online, or I'm doing fitness right now, but I want to do more nutrition, or I'm doing nutrition, but I only have 3 clients. How do I get 30 clients? That's more where the mindset piece comes in. With individual clients, it's just understanding that food and fitness are a gateway to success in other areas of your life, and your mindset around food and fitness and your discipline and comfort level will ultimately be what can then have this ripple effect to mindset in other areas. But very rarely do you have someone like slide in your DM and be like, hey dude, like, do you do mindset coaching? Like, I noticed you're in nutrition. Pretty rare, but it more so comes up, I'd say like your second or third coaching call or email. It's like, oh, well, 2 years ago, I was given this template and it was super restrictive and it created these issues around like, I never wanted to go out to eat, or it created this mindset block. And then I'm like, oh, okay, light bulb, like, let's dive in and figure out what that means. But that's why in my intake form, I'm typically asking people like, hey, what does a typical schedule look like for you? What previous diets have you tried? What's your family life like? Your environment at home in terms of food? Are people supportive of your goals? And looking at all these external factors, because that's going to tell you way more about their mindset than, hey, like, tell me what macros you followed yesterday. I still ask for those, but that's not really the most important question. And I think where some coaches have it backwards is like they only think about like macros, and they don't think about, well, if this person has a really unsupportive roommate and a super stressful job and they're overtrained, like there are other issues besides, logging the food in MyFitnessPal.
Right. That human element, huge factor. All right, man. Tell me a little bit. I'm interested now about the business side of things. I think that's a natural progression for a lot of coaches who've been successful, is to, kind of have some sort of transition, or at least help in some degree other coaches or business professionals, scale, or, help them do what you've done. So what are you doing in that regard? I'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
So in terms of mentorship for coaches, one thing we have coming out is a masterclass on men's health and hormones, since I tend to be a little bit more focused in that area, people who are interested in learning more about that level of specialization. So that's more of a content specific class or mentorship opportunity, which is just like you can download a video and self-study at home. I don't really advertise any type of like coaching coaches, because I have like mixed feelings about that. I mean, I've been in different groups where you're trying to like accelerate and grow your business, and I think it can be good if you're mutually supportive of people. But it was more just like through Instagram stories or posting on Facebook, like I would get a message from someone that's like, hey, I'm trying to do what you're doing. Like, how did you do what you're doing? And you just kind of talk to them for a little while, and then maybe it ends up, you give them a few tidbits of advice. Or now doing a little bit more of the mentorship thing, which is like, hey, I want to read what you read. I want to structure, like, what intake form do I give people? How do I do check-ins? How do I sell people on training and nutrition and all that stuff? So I do a little bit of that, but I try not to I think you have to be careful, because like if your focus is on clients, you need a set, like the way I do everything is I have a set roster for like, these are the number of nutrition clients we're going to have each month. Anything above that, like fortunately, we have a registered dietitian on our team now, and then another coach as well, so they can help with training and nutrition. And I still do a ton of that. I probably have between 40 and 50 people right now. But trying to just control your bandwidth, because I think it's very like shiny light syndrome to be like, oh, well, now I'm just going to coach like 50 fitness coaches.
Right.
If someone truly like is passionate and has a good heart for it, and their mind is in the right place, and they're willing to make an investment in doing that, I like helping people. That's why I'm in it. And the way I think about it is, if I can reach 40 people a month or 50 people a month on my own, or our team can reach, this many dozens of people by helping another coach, like they can potentially go have a team, or they can go potentially have 40 or 50 people. And now like we've just created this exponential impact. Whereas I'm never like, me by myself, if I was the only coach, like I can't help everybody that needs help. There are more people out there that need help, and we need good quality coaches to do it. So really, it's just like, I think that all comes back to, on the coaching side, it's like putting good stuff in your brain, like feeding your brain quality material, whether it's learning the ins and outs of, training or periodization or biomechanics, or, learning quality nutrition, and, here's what your clients need, here's how to help them with habit formation. But more often than not, what I run into is people who have like 3 or 4 certifications and they just haven't started their business because they're spinning their wheels and they think it's an education issue. But it's like it's where the big leap comes in, really. It's like a self-limiting belief, worry, concern. They're afraid, like, oh, well, I actually heard this on Jason Phillips' podcast today, but with Jill Fit. And she was like, she had a mentee that was worried he was going to get so many clients that it would interrupt like his morning walk and his routine and all these things. And she's like, dude, you don't even have one client yet. Like, let's actually let's get a client before you're actually worried about like it impacting your schedule. So I do see a lot of people who have like the paralysis by analysis and haven't really like commit to things. And I know for a long time, I certainly faced like some constraints around my own business. So if I can help people free themselves from whatever mindset that's holding them back, then, I'm happy to try my best to help with growth in that area.
That's awesome, man. All right, man. Well, I appreciate everything so far, but we're going to move to the quick fire questions of the show. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What's the hardest workout you've ever done?
All right. There's a couple. There are definitely a couple. So one was I'm going to give you two or three here. One was a Doug Miller workout that was like based on deadlifts. It was more of a bodybuilding style training, but he did some sort of EMOM with like 80% plus of your deadlift max, which for me at the time was like, it was a heavy workout, like multiple plates on the bar, and it just like smokes you. I always think that the workouts like, I always mix up the name. It's not Grace or Fran. It's like, there's one where you have to do like 30 snatches with 135 and some of the competitive times are like really, really impressive. I tried doing that workout at one point last year and that was very, very, very tough. So I would say one of two, and I apologize to the CrossFit fans listening that I'm not thinking of whatever female or hurricane name we have.
Right.
I don't really do a ton of CrossFit formally, but I can appreciate the premise of it.
All right, man. And in your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
I'm probably go with strength and conditioning, just because I think, pushing yourself to achieve new limits. Although as I was answering that, I was like, running your own business is a good
yeah.
Yeah. So in life, I'll say running your business. In terms of activity, I'd say I'm a big proponent of like resistance training, strength and conditioning for mental toughness and physical development.
Awesome. All right. Now, if you don't have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Geez, man, these are tough. I know they're like these theoretical questions, but if it's only one piece, or is it like an apparatus that has like?
Yeah, whatever you want to pick. Yeah, if you want like a machine, or if it's a barbell, you get the plates. We've also had to throw out that caveat as well. So
yeah, I would either do like an adjustable set of dumbbells that goes up to like 100 pounds, or I would do a power rack, like barbell with plates.
Awesome. All right, man. Last question of the show. What is the best advice you have for becoming a better human? And this is 100% open-ended.
For becoming a better human, I think I would just say focus on your own personal development, and the rest will just sort of fall into place. And when you're worried about you, it kind of makes other problems dissipate.
Awesome. All right, dude. Well, I know people are going to want to check out more or learn more about you and your work. So where can they go to do that, learn more about everything you have going on?
Sure. So our company website for the one-to-one coaching is oraclefitness.com. So that's ORACLE fitness.com. On the corporate side, we've got adaptiveprofessional.com. I'm on Instagram as Sam Miller Science. So it's my full name followed by the word science. And then our company Instagram is Oracle_coaching. So that's the little underscore hyphen and then coaching, still the same Oracle. And we do have a good resource of videos on Facebook and stuff, not quite on YouTube yet. And then most of our podcasts like this one, I'll put up on our featured content page on our website. So if you're an iTunes listener or just a big fan of podcasts in general, we do try to curate any free articles that we've put out as well as free podcasts so that you can listen on the way to work or during your workout or walk, whatever. And hopefully that's beneficial for you. If you have any questions, I'm pretty open when it comes to that. So shoot us a message and we're happy to help.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time and thank you for being on the Better Humanology podcast.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.